All right. Thank you everyone for coming. I know there was a concert last night, so people are probably pretty pooped from that late night of partying. I'm Chris Willis. I'm the customer engineer that's been helping Brain Corp in their adoption of our shelf-checking AI product, which is built on top of Vertex AI, which I'll talk about a little bit later. Brain Corp is using shelf-checking AI with their robots to scan grocery store shelves and ultimately help grocery stores save time and money, which who doesn't love that, right? Okay, so John's gonna kick things off, and he's gonna talk about what Brain Corp does. He's gonna cover the migration from their previous cloud provider to GCP. He's going to talk about Brain Solutions as well as their latest Sense product, which they've come out with. And then following that, I'll come back up and talk about Vertex AI. So, thank you. John?
Thanks, Chris. Day 3, hopefully everyone's energy is as high and excited as mine is to be here and talk to you. As Chris mentioned, I'm the director of our cloud operations at Brain Corporation and been really excited about the GCP partnership that we've had for the last 2.5 years, almost 3 years now, working together to really accelerate what Brain can do, and I'm excited to talk to you about that. A little bit about Brain Corporation. We're an automation company. Brain Corporation focuses on robots helping people. A lot of times robots have a stigma of coming in, replacing jobs, and we value helping and putting robots alongside individuals in the workplace. We have 2 main use cases. Chris already talked around our Sense product in terms of data collection in stores. Our main first product we had was in floor care and cleaning. And we really think of our robots kind of like the dishwasher of the 1950s and the 1960s. Dishwasher came into the American household and really freed up time after the family meal, at the end of the night. Dishes still needed to get done, but now family could load the dishwasher and was able to spend time, watch a movie, play a game, have a little bit more value time that they get together instead of having to stand over and slave at the sink all night. Brain Corporation's a lot in the same way of what we're trying to do with our robots. A little bit by the numbers, Brain is #1 in the world in terms of deployed robots operating autonomously. We have about 29,000 robots that operate worldwide, cleaning floors and helping to provide data collection in retail spaces. In that, we have executed about 10 million hours of autonomy. To put that in context, that's about 1,200 years worth of autonomy that our robots have operated, longer than any civilization that man has lived. In those 10 million hours of operation, we've cleaned 130 billion square feet of floor. Myself, I'm a big US football fan. That's about 2.8 million football fields worth of space that our robots have cleaned. That's a lot of touchdowns they've scored. So how are customers seeing and getting value out of what Brain Corporation is doing? COVID really changed a lot of the landscape around retail and around what our customers are doing. Customers coming into the stores want clean spaces. Companies coming out of COVID are having a hard time finding labor, and labor costs are rising. How can Brain Corporation comes in? We have robots that can come in, help make sure that floors are clean, help collect data around what's on a shelf, and help the labor that they have currently existing in their stores be focused on more valuable tasks and spending time with their customers. So how does Brain Corporation do this? Our strategy and our approach to how Brain OS, our main autonomy service, is focused is much like Android versus Apple. Apple wants to be completely integrated, own everything end to end. We want to be a little bit more like Android. Partner with best-in-class partners, where things such as Tenant, Dane, Karcher, Nilfisk, large companies that are really good at manufacturing, and let Brain focus on providing the autonomy software and the autonomy solution on top of that. And then find best-in-class partners on the other side, like Google in their Shelf Checker AI, and working with each customer in terms of their partners and how we integrate. Let Brain focus and win where we do in the autonomy space. Next, I want to talk to you a little bit about our journey to GCP. We made the decision 3 years ago to leave our current existing cloud provider and move to GCP. I'll get to why we did that in a second, but we did some initial POCs looking at alternative cloud partnerships and cloud environments, and with the criteria we had set out in one alternative cloud provider, it took us about a month to get set up, be able to run a demo and validate some use cases. And GCP was less than a week. So it was clear who was the right partner for us to move forward. Instead of doing a move and improve, the new term around lift and shift, we decided to do a full-scale infrastructure rewrite. And so that meant that it took a little bit longer in our timelines than maybe others, but it took us a year until October of 2021 and that we moved our first cleaning robots over into our GCP environment. After that, in November, we launched our brand new BrainOS mobile application that pairs alongside with our robots, and then things started to pick up speed. By April of 2022, we had moved 8,000 robots and all the operations over onto GCP. Then we turned our eyes towards moving over our shelf scanning workloads and fleets, and in July of 2022, we began moving that workload and completed in September. 2-year project to move all of our robot and fleet management and operations and our entire company from our previous cloud provider to GCP. So why move? What are the benefits? What is Brain getting and taking on a 2-year-long project in this scale? Well, customer demand. We found that moving to GCP, one of our top key customers, we were in kind of a bit of a competitive space for them and really was a key initiative driver. But when we started looking at GCP, we saw that 9 out of the 10 top retailers in the world were running on Google Cloud. So there was definite market space, adoption that we could get by moving to Google Cloud and leveraging those partnerships. Robots generate a lot of data. And so Google, when we think about them, is world-class at how they build solutions around data. Robots generate big data. You need big queries to process those. And so their suite of services around Google Storage, Firestore for mobile, and BigQuery for just analytics really fit well with what we were trying to do. And then lastly, a lot of retailers take security very seriously. You're now putting something operating in their environment autonomously, wanting to ensure that data leaving that robot, coming to Brain's cloud and making it to them is secure. So the authentication platform and capabilities to ensure robots talking to our backend systems, as well as the customers coming in and accessing our web applications, has complete security around that. So what did we get in terms of benefits here? I can't talk enough about the benefits that we've seen in the data tooling and the architecture that GCP offers, that their event and pub/sub-driven notification systems and ability to seamlessly set up data pipelines and move data through GCP has unparalleled. Their managed services. And from our legacy environment, we were having to do regular maintenance to keep our Kubernetes updated, updating various services, trying to take in patches, keep databases updated. With Google Cloud, all of my DevOps team can be focused more on higher value things. With Autopilot, updates to Kubernetes automatically happen, zero maintenance. Leveraging BigQuery, features just roll out. I'm not having to manage database versions, having to keep it updated, scaling out, scaling down. Lastly, as we continue to discuss and invest into our Google relationship, we got involved with Google's retail AI and where they were going, as well as what we were trying to do in the retail space. And we've been successful in over a year now developing alongside with shelf-checking AI and being in on the ground floor and building that out. Some key learnings along the way. Changing cloud environments requires organizational shift. You're changing an entire company culture here, where tools that folks use, how do they access things, where do they go to get information? So making sure that you build into that a complete skill retraining. We moved from where do I go to get my data in terms of new spaces? How do I get access to that? What are the tools that I'm using? As well, create a culture around that where as folks are still developing, 2 years is a long time to migrate a lot of workload, and so you need to build in and have a plan and communication strategy with that of when is your application, when is your workload going to move, so they can begin to design in foundations for when that shift happens, and it's not a one to the other. You need to also communicate with all of your stakeholders at the company and to your customers that a change is coming. One of the really proud things in our migration that we did with Brain Corporation here and moving to Google Cloud, we had zero downtime impact to our customers. They were able to completely continue running their robots and saw zero interruption in any of their data and reporting. But we still need to conform them, have them be bought in what they're doing. There will be leaders and laggers that are resistant to that change, but don't give up. You're on the right path. Lastly, leverage your Google resources. Chris loves me when I say this one, but go leverage your account team. Every time one of my tech leads or somebody in my team is looking at a new technology, whether that's, hey, we want to look at using Dataflow or Spanner, or we want to bring in something we're struggling with PubSub, reach out and they will tap into an unparalleled universe of knowledge that you can take advantage of and really bring your team along on what they're developing. So now that we've landed, we're in GCP, what has that enabled and what has that done for Brain Corporation? It's really helped us change our entire customer experience and what we're doing with them. Scaling out robotics means that you need best-in-class tools that are tightly integrated with our robots for being able to do monitoring and reporting internally and to our customers. And so, as well as different platforms for where are they. In terms of our internal fleet management tools, we have capabilities for identifying hardware issues, performing software updates, editing routes for customers, and troubleshooting problematic areas in operation. Being able to have that fleet management look and keep the robots up and running autonomously day after day provides a really high quality service to our customers. End-to-end reporting where customers want it. Whether they want on-the-go, walking around the store in their mobile application to see what's going on, sitting at a web application, being able to pull down data, be able to dig in deeper, download, do their own analytics, or whether they just want the push notification or push service of email for that quick daily scan or looking at weekly performance. Brain, and with the power of Google, is able to offer a seamless experience in all the different places for our customers. And when we look at what we've taken with a mobile-first approach here, we've continued to add new features, new capabilities to make our robots more touchless, adding remote assist clearing capabilities where when a robot gets stuck somewhere in the store, the associate's able to use their mobile phone and let it resume if it's safe to do so. Adding into our next generation of robot scheduling capabilities that are mobile first in terms of setting up schedules and defining when would you like this robot to run. And an exciting new feature we've just recently launched as well is real-time robot tracking in the store. I obviously took a ride share to come over here today and was able to see as it navigated around the streets of San Francisco, much like the same way you can see where is your robot navigating and operating within your store. Most excitedly, as Chris mentioned, is our Sense suite of products and what we're able to do and building out here. This is around going into the stores and doing data collection for the retail employees and freeing up their time instead of having to manually go around on clipboards. Brain offers super excited last year. We announced our Monarch standalone scrubber at Google Next last year, and we're excited to beginning doing demos and pilots with that. But customers want versatility. Some customers still want that cleaning capability and being able to add on scanning to their existing robotic fleets. So Brain offers versatility. Where do customers want things? In Sense, we offer versatility as well. In the retail space, RFID is a rapidly emerging technology where more and more products are getting tagged. How can Brain adapt and being able to add RFID sensors to be able to collect that data and reduce having to manually walk up and down with wands in aisles? We still have computer vision and being able to do product detection, localization, and looking at adapting other sensors in the future that we want to add to Sense as our customers add new sensors to their environments. Leveraging all the power that we've built in all of our fleet management tools, Sense also forced us to think differently in terms of how do we set up and add our robots into customers' environments and make it as touchless for customers as possible, where leveraging our expertise in fleet management for setup, deployment, annotation of what aisles are whether something is a grocery section, whether it's electronics, whether it's meat processing, and then still getting all the same benefits of our route editing, performance tracking that we have for all of our scrubber fleets. Lastly, with our mobile-first capabilities, we have insights being delivered directly to mobile apps in the stores. Associates can be able to view what's out of stock, what's on their shelves, what's incorrectly placed, are price tags wrong, being able to quickly scroll through and look at what needs to be corrected in their stores instead of having to go around and walk them themselves. We also are looking at capabilities of integrating with customers' own task management apps and feeding in that same data. And as we mentioned before, 9 out of 10 retailers are already on Google Cloud. Seamless integration and not having to deal with cross-cloud compatibility and different issues here. Simple data availability in their environment that they can start consuming. So Brain, obviously, we try to help win customers with their loyalty and sailors. I recently went to a home improvement store looking to buy a new umbrella stand as mine had rusted out in all the rain we got here in San Diego this year. Pulled up the mobile app, went looking around, went to that bin, that section. There's no umbrella stands there. Had to go find a store associate. We wandered around, finally found the umbrella stands. If they had been using BrainOS robots, that would have been updated with the correct location of where that umbrella stand is, and I could have bought it quickly and been on with my day instead of having to walk around and hunt for it. Using BrainOS robots as well frees up that associate's time. They're not manually walking around with clipboards, doing data entry, collecting data that could be mismarked, mistranslated later, having to go through and maybe type something in. Lastly, all of those back-end analysts now have trusted data that they can ensure and rely on to ensure that their inventory supply systems are correct and accurate. They get higher accuracy results, better on-shelf availability, and their inventory systems are correct by leveraging BrainOS robots. All of this is built on top of Vertex AI, which I'm going to turn it over to Chris to talk a little bit more about. Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to talk about Vertex AI, as John mentioned, and I'm going to talk about cereal boxes, which I think everyone can relate to. So Vertex AI is the foundation for shelf-checking AI, which on the BrainOS mobile app that John was showing, when you're looking at those items on the shelf, how those items are identified and how many of them are on the shelf, that's all shelf-checking AI in the back end doing that. So inventory optimization is a perfect use case for AI. Imagine you're in the grocery store and you walk up to buy your favorite cereal and you find an empty shelf, much like the umbrella example that John gave. You're upset because you don't get your cereal, and the store's upset because they don't get your money. It's pretty much that simple. Now imagine you walk up to that same shelf and they don't have your favorite flavor, okay? The model's starting to confuse the Blueberry Crunch. We can see how serious this situation is. The Blueberry Crunch with the Honey Oats. Cereal boxes are changing all the time. It's an incredibly dynamic world. I guess not as much as Oreo boxes. I guess those change like every 5 seconds. I swear there's like a new color or a new something like that. But yeah, let's say that there's a bunch of pumpkin spice cereal that's up on the aisle, and now the brain robots, of course this would never happen with brain robots, but now your robots are collecting more images of the pumpkin spice cereal. And now your model's getting, the data that you're feeding your model to train it is getting imbalanced. So it needs to be retrained with balanced data so that it doesn't start favoring one thing over the other, and then you wind up showing up to the shelf and now there's just pumpkin spice cereal everywhere and you can't find your other favorite flavor, which I actually like pumpkin spice stuff, so. I'm kind of a pumpkin spice fiend. So this is all part of ML ops, which is a buzzword that basically means you're doing all of the right things to ensure that your models don't actually get worse over time and start putting pumpkin spice everywhere, right? Vertex monitoring. So this is a really big slide. There's a lot on this slide, but specifically I'm going to zoom in on Vertex monitoring on this slide. It can alert you to things like prediction drift, which is the example I gave earlier, where you're starting to train your model on more pumpkin spice than you are the other cereals. And obviously the model just is doing what it's trained on, and it's gonna start thinking that things that kind of look alike might just all be pumpkin spice. So we can balance that distribution now that we know Vertex monitoring has alerted us and said, hey, there's prediction drift going on here. Now you can go and balance that data distribution when you're training the data, or when you're training the model, sorry. But as a startup, so this session is for startups, you may not have time to do everything that was in that slide. There was a lot of little steps, and Vertex AI can do the full gamut. It can do, there are companies that are using just Vertex AI to successfully deliver AI products to their customers. But as a startup, you may be resource constrained, and the person who's managing your infrastructure in your Terraform might also be the same person who is trying to run your models and maybe even training the models. I don't know how stretched thin they might be. But so AutoML is a perfect solution for that. You show up with your labeled cereal boxes. I'm just going to keep going with cereal boxes. Your labeled cereal boxes, your Honey Crunch, your this, your that. You label your cereal boxes. You tell AutoML what problem you want it to solve. So a classification problem is basically what we're talking about here with it's this cereal box, this cereal box, differentiating the different cereal boxes. And ultimately, what we've seen is that things that may take data scientists 1 week to implement can now take 1 hour because you're just showing up with your data, feeding it into the model, along with saying this is a classification use case. There's hundreds of models that AutoML is going to go and try to figure out which one performs the best. It's doing all of this on your behalf behind the scenes. You just let it run. It's kind of like a black box. And then it will come up and say, this is the right model for you. Another differentiator, so I'm gonna kind of, that was just talking about what you can do with Vertex AI and how it applies to Brain Corp. Now I'm going to talk more about things that really differentiate Vertex AI. So explainable AI is one of the things that we've invested a lot in. And instead of cereal boxes, I'll use dog breeds as an example. So let's say you're training a model to identify dog breeds. You want to know which part of the dog is most important when you're doing your prediction. So if I take a picture of a dog to train my model, what do I want to capture in that image that you're feeding in? Using explainable AI, we can see that the dog's fur is lit up here. So the fur of the dog contributed the most to the prediction. And going forward, you would want to make sure that your training data really captures the complexity of the fur of any dog that you train the model on. So that's one way that you can really see how your training data, especially for, I like this one because it's visual, how your training data is affecting the model ultimately and what it's predicting. The second is responsible AI. That's another differentiator for us. Any API call you make to the Palm API, it's going to return a safety score and labels. So let's say you're running a chatbot, and the user's interacting with the chatbot, it's generating responses, and you're trying to filter those responses that are going back to the end user. Well, if there's inappropriate language in there, or the chatbot now is spouting off about religious things, like you want to know that, right? Like that's out of scope for the chatbot. So you want to have a fallback and have it say maybe something generic that's not going to get you into trouble, right? This is something that can be done with safety scores and labeling. There's a host of safety labels that are returned with in the JSON payload of the prediction. The third differentiator is that GenAI answers with Google Cloud and Vertex specifically are grounded in factuality, or have the ability to be grounded in factuality. When you train enterprise search on all of your documents, you shove all your documents into a Google Cloud storage bucket or your Google Drive, and you point enterprise search at it, which is a product we announced a while ago, but there's been tons of content this conference about this product. It will go and train on your data that you've put into your Google Drive or your GCS bucket and start creating embeddings and ultimately map out how to retrieve that data and then generate a response to the end user. So if you search, kind of like what you do with Google, you search for a specific thing, it will find where that document chunk is that it's been trained on. It'll find where that document chunk is, return it to you. But not only that, it will say, here's the file that I found that document chunk in. So if you want to go and fact check the model, you can, which is really important because hallucinations are kind of a foundational, I guess you would say, flaw, or it's a non-trivial problem. We haven't solved for large language model hallucinations yet. So it's going to be very important that we, as people using large language models, have that grounded in factuality piece to it, so we can go and double check what the model's saying is correct. I think in the near term, until hallucinations get solved for, if they ever do, I don't know, hopefully, it's going to be so important to do that. And the last thing I want to tell you about is, as a startup, I talked before about how startups are resource constrained. You're trying to do a lot with not many people. Google Cloud for Startups program can get you started with credits, a dedicated success manager, and cross-Google benefits, kind of like what John alluded to before. I have a really good relationship with John's team. They come to me when they're stuck on something, or there's a bug, or Terraform doesn't do something they want it to. They come to me, I find the right person within Google, translate the request and get them to go and take the problem seriously and kind of escalate it internally with Google, or jump in and help out where I can. So there's 3 things I would love everyone to take away from this part of the presentation, not John's part. 3 things. So Vertex AI has a tool for every stage of the MLOps lifecycle. You saw that big chart up there, the left to right MLOps lifecycle. We have for every stage in that MLOps lifecycle, Vertex has something all the way to the end, where we talked about Vertex AI monitoring, where you can detect prediction drift and, hey, this model thinks everything's pumpkin spice, et cetera. Second, AutoML automates model selection. We talked about how it will choose from over 100 different training types and model types and can save weeks of effort, ultimately. And third is that Google has built Vertex AI with explainability and responsibility in mind so that your lives are easier, but also your products are much safer.
Thank you all very much for coming.
Thank you.